Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud. All about humanity, so this right here for everyone. Uplift, amplify, empower everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud.
On this episode of the Sumud podcast, we uplift, empower, and amplify congressional Democratic candidate Preston Nouri. Born in Erie, Pennsylvania, Preston is a first-generation American. And at the age of 25, he is challenging Republican incumbent Mike Kelly, who is backed by AIPAC. His passion for the well-being and stability of the people in Pennsylvania's 16th congressional district is clearly unmatched. But what caught my attention about Preston is that he has been a vocal critic of the U.S. funding of genocide in Palestine. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen or watch, and follow us on social media, either at Sumud Pod or at Sumud Podcast. Preston, welcome.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Ed. It's great to be here.
Yeah, pleasure having you. I've been excited about this conversation. I've been following you. We mentioned we have some mutual friends who have recommended you several times. So I'm happy to have this conversation. Just for people who are listening right now who may not know who Preston is, who is Preston Nouri?
A couple of the biggest things that I would say about me in particular here. Preston Nouri is a person wholeheartedly committed to trying to do public service for the people that I'm trying to represent. Whether it's people here in Western Pennsylvania who've done tremendous work in resettlement, community outreach, community engagement, community organizing, just trying to make sure that folks are able to actually see real tangible benefits of the promise that America offers. In just the early 2000s to the 2010s, we've had over 15,000 new Americans in Western Pennsylvania, and in particular Erie County, where you have 150,000 people here, and 15,000 of them being new Americans. I mean, alhamdulillah, we've been able to really get folks resettled in an authentic way. A lot about Iraqis and Bosnians initially, and now focused a lot on the Syrians and Afghanis who are coming in. We speak Farsi, they speak Dari, so we're able to make that transition a little bit easier for folks, especially since translators are in short supply. There's a lot of things that, alhamdulillah, we've been able to do good work here. And, outside of that, work in public service, a garden. I try to care. I try to be a religious scholar when I get a chance to. Not a real sheikh or anything like that, but get a good chance to learn about different folks' theologies. And probably my last thing, a little fun fact here for you is I actually like to cook. I do actually like to cook on a very regular basis here, and we've been able to make some pretty good dishes recently. I actually just tried my hand at hummus about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I mean, liking to cook and being able to cook, I learned, are two different things. So we're gonna have to.
We can cook. We have been approved by what is it, our future mother-in-law. Haida was very clear that if you can't cook, don't try cooking. And she's like, all right, you can cook and keep it moving.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you have a pretty eclectic background. Obviously, you're Muslim. Is it that your dad is Persian and your mother is Polish? Is that accurate?
Yeah, so yeah, my dad's Polish, my dad's Persian, my mom's Polish. Yeah, grew up in a split faith household. I've actually been confirmed. I've gone through all of your Catholic tenets and things like that, and alhamdulillah, I'm a practicing Muslim to this day. I mean, for me, some people like to say, "Oh, what is it? Isn't it confusing here?" I mean, for me, I genuinely think it's another opportunity to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It's just allowing us to go out to find different ways and different facets to really connect, with a higher power. And I mean, alhamdulillah, it's been pretty great to see different sides of it and be able to stand strong for it here in an area that, there's not that much Muslim representation.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, your strongest ad out there is with your fiance, who's Palestinian American. I mean, I think she hit a home run for you, for what it's worth.
Oh, I mean, I am beyond lucky on a variety of reasons here for her. But I mean, she's been so supportive the entire time. And I mean, honest to God, behind everyone who is even marginally successful is a much better woman. And I mean, alhamdulillah, she's definitely been my rock throughout this entire process.
Yeah, I believe it. All Palestinian women are. Just remember that.
Oh yeah. Oh, she lets me know every day too. So.
So before we get into the serious stuff, one thing that I found was you were a football player and rugby player. So
So I played football, played lacrosse,
oh,
played soccer, did debate. Real all I got, actually. What is it? In true Americana fashion, I have my varsity letter with all the little bells and whistles on it. Got looks at for college ball and everything like that, but even at 6 foot, about 200 pounds at the time, I was still a little bit too small to go play the positions they wanted me to.
Gotcha. Would you have liked to end up on the Eagles or the Steelers?
Uh, and we want to be friends here after this, right? It's the Steelers, and it's the Steelers forever here. I hope you understand.
Well, we the only reason we can be friends is because the answer is the Steelers.
Okay,
If it
all
was
right.
the
I'm glad.
Eagles,
Okay,
I'm a Commanders fan, unfortunately. So
my dad is too. Don't
yeah,
worry. I mean, he is. As when he came here, right after right before the revolution. I mean, he landed in JFK, ended up in DC, and the first football team that he ever got a chance to see or learn about was the Commanders. And since he has been a loyal fan, just as every other Persian man
yeah,
is.
yeah. I'm sorry for him for that. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's been tough. I've been trying to talk to him a little bit more about it. He pretty much about like 5 or 6 years ago after RG3 got hurt. I mean, he just said, I don't know what the future of this franchise looks like.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, and am I getting this right? You had a family business growing up, and throughout college, you were serving tables or waiting tables,
Yeah,
correct?
so pretty much up until about I started at like 9 or 10 years old, mixing concrete in basements with a bunch of Bosnian guys, doing roofing, carpentry. Do a little bit of electrical here, some plumbing. I mean, we have a small business over here which we've been flipping houses. Both my folks, they still do that here. I got my first job on the books at 15. I was in food service, serving tables. Couldn't serve alcohol, so then I lost that job and worked at Moe's. And then I think when I was 17, I got my next serving job. And throughout college, served tables, did internships in the morning, and had to make enough scratch at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you have a phenomenal story. You obviously worked very hard at a young age. You're only 25, and you're running for office. I have to ask, at this age, what makes you so devoted or dedicated to public service? Because not many 25-year-olds out there are in line with you.
Well, Ed, I think it's a couple of things, and I think it just depends on whether or not we want to zoom in or zoom out here. So, on a zoomed in factor, here where I'm currently at right now, I'm in Erie County, where I was born and raised. I live currently in the 16502. The poorest zip code in the entire United States is the 16501. It's right next door. Median salary $11,000 a year. I mean, we're talking child poverty in 70, 80%. We're talking about enough people who have seen the worst of what the current circumstances have, and the pandemic has definitely hollowed out a lot of folks. We've seen a brain drain in this area for a number of years, and the reason as to why I started as young as I did was, at least on the local level here, I got friends and family working 65 hours a week, and they're just not making it. I mean, we've had GE and Zern, which were two of the biggest employers in this area. GE making the trains and all of the locomotive engines. Zern doing a lot of plumbing and pipe fittings and things like that. They were 35,000 jobs, that 50 to 250 salary bracket, right? And here in Western Pennsylvania, with the lower standard of living costs compared to DC or New York, those were jobs that put mortgages in the bank. They put houses over people's heads. They put food on the table. And since then, we've just lost that. And I mean, quite frankly, it's not like this isn't a policy decision. We have the ability to do it, right? We've got the Inflation Reduction Act. We've got the CHIPS Act. We have money that's already been set aside here to institute the next generation of whether it be manufacturing or just industry in an area that has been crying out for it. And the guy that I'm currently running against, if he was doing a fine job, I wouldn't run against him. I think it comes down to the fact that here on the local level, he's been here for the last 14 years, a major subcommittee chair on Ways and Means, and has every ability to make it happen, and just has not. And I mean, as somebody who initially ran on term limits here, and now he is going in asking for his 16th year, I think it comes down to the fact that, we're having a lot of promises, but we're not having the same commitment that we truly need in this area. And zooming out, I mean, we just, I think, appropriated out $130 billion just in the last 10 months while the genocide's been going on. I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars being sent to go fund, what the ICJ and any other large international institution is actively calling apartheid and genocide. I mean, these don't even have to be my words. These are the International Criminal Court of Justice, which we've seen the Rohingya trial and a variety of other trials that people have brought before there. declare what is going on right now in Israel Palestine as a genocide and as apartheid. And I think that being as clear as possible is something that we need to do here, especially since it's our tax dollars that are paying for it, right? And when it comes down to it, we can end homelessness in the United States for $20 billion, and that's just a fraction of what we are sending every single year to a variety of foreign aid. And I mean, it came down to the circumstance here. I'll get into this a little bit, but while I was working at the Pentagon in legislative congressional oversight, I got to see us waste billions upon billions of dollars per fiscal year. I mean, we're talking anywhere from 25 to 35 billion dollars every single year per fiscal year that's being wasted on $10,000 hammers, $20,000 bolts. Not even talking about weapon systems or anything like that, but just deep-seated corruption that is not being audited, that really would make the difference here for when Congress is always asking, how are we going to pay for it? Well, we can pay for it. It's just about us doing a good job and making sure we have real people in Congress who are willing to represent us in an authentic way.
And what you did was pretty badass. I'm not going to lie. Did I read this right? Where you made some sort of announcement or held a press conference outside of Mike Kelly's office building? Is that correct?
I think we've done it like 4 or 5 times, and we'll continue to do it outside of his office building. I mean, my campaign manager, he lives 2 miles away from him, right? And he has not seen him in the past 10 years. I mean, when we're talking about, he's got a newspaper called the Kelly Good News, and all the things that he's doing here for our district. Says he has the same commitment to Western Pennsylvania, but when he's not even here in the district to try to have press conferences, talk with people, engage with the community. I mean, as one of my own, as a constituent of his, I had previously asked his office to help me out with my clearances when I was going through the Pentagon here. I had asked him. It took about 6 months, and they actually ended up sending my dad the paperwork instead of me, which I think there's some kind of like felony rule or something like that in the Federal Register about it. But I mean, long story short, compared to like Senator Casey, other folks here, we might have different policy agreements. But when I asked for, hey, can you help me out with my clearance in less than 3 weeks, boom, we were done. And I think it's just the commitment to taking care of people in this district when they have a need, Republican or Democrat, is I think the first thing that we need to really focus on here. So I've got no problem standing outside and telling them where it is and how it needs to happen.
And you're the first Democrat to actually challenge for this seat, correct?
That's not true.
Not true.
So in 2018, the Democratic challenger, Ron DiNicola, he was within 10,000 votes of flipping the seat. It was in 2008, a Democrat, Kathy Dahlkemper, she formerly held this seat. She's been an early endorser here and everything like that. She was actually the one who had put the amendment forward on the Affordable Care Act to allow kids to stay on their parents' health insurance until the age of 26. And I mean, that's impacted millions upon millions of people across this entire country. And, when that's the legacy here, and now for the last 14 years, we've just had somebody who's only been profiteering for himself, it's sad. But I mean, it's not like it's an untenable situation. I mean, since 2018, it's gotten more blue. We recently picked up a couple areas in the southern part of this district that are the fastest growing areas in this side of the Mississippi. Cranberry and Adams Township are fast becoming the Pittsburgh suburbs, and that is changing what this demographic really looks like in this district, which is a good thing for us, but also is just showing that, times are changing and we need people to be able to address the upcoming circumstances and in not any of the past grievances that we've people may have had. Let's deal with the problems that we have in front of us in an authentic way, not just focus on ad hominem attacks or anything of that nature.
For sure. And when you say enriching himself, can you elaborate? I think maybe through tax breaks, was it through his car dealerships?
Oh, everything you can possibly think of. So I mean, I give probably the cleanest example of it is the Inflation Reduction Act allowed for a $350,000 solar grant that was going to be allocated somewhere here in Western Pennsylvania. Mike Kelly was one of the biggest, if not the most ardent advocate in the entirety of Pennsylvania against it. However, when it came to pass, he took the $350,000 grant and put it on his car dealership in Western PA to take $27,000 off of his light bill, compared to, let's say, I've got somebody here over on 16th Street, a whole 15 minutes away from me, that runs one of the most successful non-for-profit unhoused shelters in the entire city, who has desperately needed help on the light bill for a number of years that we were trying to go get that teed up. But instead of trying to help out people who are helping out the community, he's just trying to help out himself. He's under investigation for insider trading, was referred to the Committee on Ethics, just made an identical trade right before him and DeLuzio had the energy secretary come out here to talk about the Butler Works plant, which is a steel plant that's in the southern part of the district. He goes out there, says he's going to, you have to do the work here and advocate and lobby against the government to make it happen, even though he's our representative in DC. And then as soon as, he gets the opportunity to put out a press release that he saved 1,200 jobs, he immediately puts an amendment when the legislation actually heads to the floor that now the jobs are back onto the chopping block. It's just consistent time after consistent time where whether he's able to benefit financially, politically, in any way, shape, or form, he's just trying to profiteer for himself instead of trying to pass any substantive piece of legislation, which I think culminates in the last 14 years. The only piece of legislation that he's been able to pass was a tax break for used car dealers.
How does he keep getting away with this? It's ridiculous. Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, it's money for those who are going to be listening to this. Preston's saying this is about money, but I just don't get his constituents specifically. I mean, is this the time where you feel that they're going to rise up and say, you know what, enough, we're not taking this anymore?
If just in terms of just rough energy before, talking about polling or those kind of dark arts here for political forecasting, I'm perfect examples. Trump was shot at the Butler Farm Show, or at the Farm Show grounds. We were at the Butler Farm Show. I had Trumpers wearing Trump hats and "Let's Go Brandon" T-shirts coming up to me, taking my card and taking my literature, saying, "I want to give you a real look because I'm tired of a used car dealer misrepresenting me." And I mean, that's in his backyard. That's in the county that people consistently buy cars from him. It's just showing up that people in this area for a long time. And I think that something that we've really seen here is this district was won by Obama in 2008, and then Trump won it by 10 points here the last time around in 2016. I think just what has happened in this district is people in this area have for a long time been left behind by both parties in DC. And that is what's resonating first and foremost. Economic populism is something that has resonated so hard with so many people that, when Trump speaks about economic populism and speaks to issues about that people are feeling, they resonate with him. They take him at face value because they're working 65 hours a week and don't have the time to really see, oh, maybe he didn't actually follow through on that promise. Oh, maybe that's not actually 100% true. It's people in this area need to be able to hear about the message, right? And I think that when Ron DiNicola he didn't raise like $20 million or anything like that. He raised less than two. And I mean, compared to where we're seeing the $5 or $6 million that's being spent out east with Brian Fitzpatrick and Ashley Ehaz, just being able to effectively communicate to people in this district about what's happening, that's where people are going to be like, let's really think about this. Let's give it a shot. And in a year where, we've got Senator Casey on the ballot, who's never won by less than 10. He does really well with the over 65 community, it being a presidential year. The stars are aligning for a lot of really interesting things to happen. And I'll be honest with you, Ed, I've seen crazier things happen in politics.
Yeah, no, for sure. Are you at all worried? Because I know he's funded or he's received a lot of money from AIPAC. Are you worried about getting bullied by AIPAC at all?
Ed, I'm a first generation American Muslim. My fiance's Palestinian. I was already gonna get it regardless.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, right? I mean, they're just giving him money just because at this point. I mean, we've already outraised him in like individual contributions. The reason he has more money is because of entities like AIPAC and these other larger political action committees. I mean, he's receiving hundreds of thousands. Will continue to receive hundreds of thousands. I think that AIPAC has tried to focus their efforts in other areas that they might not want to go support the plaintiff on the lawsuit to overturn the election in Pennsylvania, since they're trying to fix their brand or whatever they're trying to do here. But long story short, yeah, they're going to support him, but I really think it comes down to the fact that we've got an opportunity here they're going to continue to let him be. They think, oh, the district is too gerrymandered. The last two campaigns haven't been able to, the 2020 and 2022 campaigns weren't able to really do something substantial against him. Why are we going to invest $2 million, $5 million or something like that? We've been able to outraise the past two campaigns. We're putting together the coalition that we really need to make it a real difference here. We're going to come in late in the game before APEC or Kelly has a chance to really, authentically try to get after us. And I think that is the biggest thing to highlight. He might be receiving hundreds of thousands, but hundreds of thousands don't decide an election out here. Being able to get out there to the people, the many will be able to meet the money. It's just having enough money to get to the many.
Yeah. And I think that's what separates Erie County from the other larger counties or cities, for example, in Pennsylvania, right? It's not all about the money. It's about there's a code, I believe, from what I understand. There is that accurate?
There's so in Erie County has decided the election since 1948 in Pennsylvania. All right, the people who do very well in this district, 86% of the people who've lived in this district have always lived in this district. People from this district do well in this district. Being from this area, having a generation to make some connections here with a number of folks, and being very involved in the community outreach and community service work that we do here. I mean, alhamdulillah has been able to, coalesce a lot of, let's say, Democrats and Republicans around us, independents as well. I think it's just trying to speak to the issues and not just try to pigeonhole ourselves into one area. To all the Republicans, we don't have horns and tails. We're just trying to authentically represent you because all of our kids are going to the same schools. We're going to the same hospitals. And push comes to shove, we want to make sure that whether it's my mom or your mom going in there, we want to make sure that everyone's taken care of properly.
Yeah. Have you debated him yet?
Oh, we're getting a debate scheduled here. He just does his absolute best to ignore, because the more that he tries to talk about us, the more it raises our profile.
Got it. Well, do you think the debate will happen soon, or do you...
Definitely is going to happen either in September or October.
Okay.
Number of news. There's already people calling for debates with him. I think we will definitely get a debate scheduled. We will be making sure that he understands that we want to debate him as many times as possible. But we know that we will be able to get a debate out of him.
Okay. I'm asking because I would like to attend that debate.
Don't you worry, brother. I'll go send you the invite here.
And I appreciate that. So one of the questions as I was preparing for this chat with you is your decision to run as a Democrat versus independent party. Can you just walk through your thought process on that?
So I think there's a couple of really big things to keep in mind here, especially for some listeners who aren't who aren't involved in politics as much as, let's say, we are. The current two-party system and the way that the Electoral College is set up has essentially created a circumstance in which people are unable to effectively get into politics if they run as a third party. The Electoral College, I think, is a perfect example of that. Right now we see Jill Stein trying to get onto the ballot in a number of places, but there's going to be a number of states she won't get onto the ballot. There's no infrastructure set up there for her to be able to do it. There's no opportunity for folks to be able to do it. I think running as a Democrat, I was able to stay true to who I am, be able to stand strong for morality, and be able to non-compromise, but also make sure that, especially in an area that the Democrats need to win. This is the must-win area for either party. There's no path to 270 without Pennsylvania, and there's no path to Pennsylvania without Western Pennsylvania, and in particular Erie County. Mike Kelly has a stranglehold on the Republican politics around here, and whether or not people actually like him or not. He just does. He's the 21st richest member of Congress, and that's how he's been able to hold it on for so long. Running as a Democrat, I believe I've been able to bring a lot of people's attention to the important issues. And I think that, especially on the issue of Palestine or a couple of our, the issues when it comes to real morality here, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, the American people are seeing this as a humanitarian issue that, we don't have to go stick ourselves into a third party for it. We have 68% of Republicans who are saying, maybe a ceasefire is a good idea. We're seeing in the 70s and 80% of Democrats saying, a ceasefire and actually making sure that we make real strides here and actually realizing Palestinian self-determination is the way forward here, right? How do we get that? I think is the most important thing. And I do welcome the opportunity for, inshallah, hopefully campaign finance reform, hopefully, inshallah, more parties getting into it. And I think that's going to, first, it needs to start with the Electoral College, which I think is probably going to take a constitutional amendment.
So, what's your take then on, because a lot of the listeners here obviously are pro-Palestinian or Palestinian themselves, with what happened to the DNC? No Palestinian was allowed to speak. Just the general treatment. I'm sure you watched those videos, and I know for you, an individual with high ethics, that must have been tough for you to watch.
It's more than tough. I mean, it's beyond disappointing. Why? I mean, I think that whether you're either in the uncommitted camp, wherever have it. I think it comes down to the fact that we had an elected member of the state government, Rural Oman, have the opportunity to be able to give her perspective as an elected member of the Georgia House to the DNC and tell her story and tell the pain and suffering that she has been feeling while also being an elected member of government, right? And I think that people need to see that. Like, there's an opportunity that the Democrats have missed wholeheartedly. And I think, to quote Lexi and to quote Abbas and some of the uncommitted folks and Linda Sarsour, I think it comes down to the fact that, the Palestinian groups and the coalitions that we've been able to stand here for morality didn't miss an opportunity. The Democrats missed an opportunity. They showed that we weren't trying to be the big party tent that we need to be. And when we're able to authentically live up to those ethics and have Ruah or have somebody speak to be able to give it, it's not like it was an unvetted speech. Everyone saw the speech. Everyone saw what was going on. I mean, that we didn't even get into the nuances of the genocide or anything like that. She just talked about, hey, let's come together and avoid circumstance like where we're seeing. I mean, the boy in Chicago, Hind Rajab, being a constant reality here. Where we're being desensitized. I think it's come down to the sole fact that we need, as a Democratic Party, to come together and understand that there are consequences to our actions. And by not letting everybody in our big tent speak, we are silencing voices and we are doing the exact antithesis to the values that we were trying to profess there. They're trying to profess joy and unity, but we're not allowing an elected member of the Democratic Party to speak. It doesn't make sense. And I think, just in terms of how like Democrats generally are feeling about it. I mean, Jon Stewart literally did a segment on it at the night. He's like, "Oh, we had Black Americans, we had Asian Americans, we had a number of folks here, but and then he said we had Palestinian Americans that had the photo not available, right?" And I think that is really what's showing what we've got going on here. We've got a group of people who see what is happening in the Democratic Party and are just sad to watch it happen because we know the results and the implications of our actions. And if we're not willing to live up to the consequences, then we need to change the way forward.
So I'm not going to lie to you, brother. I have no intention of voting for Harris, and I don't want to put you in an awkward situation. And I'm sure you hear this a lot from many different individuals. I had no intention of voting for her before the convention. It was the Biden-Harris administration, not just the Biden administration, that funded the genocide. We had Jill Stein on the podcast. I'm sure you had, hopefully you had a chance to see that one. We'll just say that you did. Yeah. And if she is on the ballot, I'm in Virginia. If she is on the ballot, I'm voting for Jill Stein. But there has to be so many of me out there carrying the same view. What's your message to them?
The message to the people right now that are completely disenfranchised. I mean, I deal with this in my own community. We've got 15,000 new Americans, a lot. We've got 24,000 students here in this area. And when, I mean, whether it's Jill Stein or whether it's the couch here, we want to make sure that people come out, right? And I'm not going to instruct people how they want to go vote here when it goes into November, right? I'm not you. I'm not you. And for the number of shortcomings that this country has, being able for us to have a say in who we elect here, I'm going to make sure that everybody has their civic duty and their civic right to vote how they want. But what we think we need to really focus on is the other people that we're able to really elect here. and other people in pro ceasefire voices and pro morality voices that we are able to elect here. I mean, I think we just saw it here perfectly with Ilhan's primary. You know, we had people who are, well, oh, is DMFI going to jump in? Is APAC going to jump in here? Puts up 60 points. Summer Lee wins her primary by 20 points. I mean, we see a number of pro ceasefire voices being able to break through. And we see some of our pro ceasefire voices being taken down by entities like APAC. I mean, I think that the mask has really come off. Our movement has been able to show the lobby for what it truly is, and it's just a pro-war lobby that we're able to highlight in an authentic way. And then when we're able to say, if we don't want to get involved with anybody who's taking pro-war dollars, go support people for office who are trying to stand in morality. A perfect example is I'm no corporate dollars, no war dollars, no none of that here, no oil money, no anything, right? It's being, and I tell people in my community, well, listen, I'm not going to tell you how you're going to go vote here in November, but what I do want you to do is come out for me, because I'm going to make sure that when I get down to DC again, because I mean, I've sat there at the State Department, been at the Pentagon, worked on the Hill, and got to watch it all happen. And the real power comes from us having an influence where the money is. And nothing Harris or Biden or whomstever can go sign here is going to be able to do that. And we need to elect more people who are willing to sit outside of the pro-war lobby, right? I think the stat the other day was 492 seats are currently bought off and owned by APAC, right? We're talking about 492 members of Congress out of the 535 who are taking money from the pro-war lobby. And at this current moment, what we need to do is an overhaul of the Congress, because they have the power of the purse. And that is where ground zero is going to happen, to making sure that no more funds are being sent over to continue to fund genocide, whether it be the arms embargo that a number of folks here are looking for. There's a lot of opportunities that we have to elect other members and to build the collective power that we truly need to make it happen, right? And if you don't have somebody running for U.S. Congress, that's okay. Get somebody to go run for city council. Get somebody to run for state rep. Get somebody to run for state government. Get somebody to run for Congress. I mean, we just Bill Pascrell's seat here. I mean, rest his soul here as he's passed. But now we see Andre, the mayor of Patterson, right now, who is favored right now to be his replacement here going into November. That's another pro ceasefire voice we've added to the deck. I mean, with the coalition, with the movement that we're able to build here, we're going to get the number of folks that we need to change and make the difference here. When it comes down into November, it's a tough year. We've lost a number of folks who truly have stood authentically in power. Jamal Bowman, Corey Bush, people who truly have stood strong and are not part of our community. I mean, listen, they're not Arab, they're not Persian, they're not Muslim, they're not Central Asian, they're not anything other than people who think with authentic morality. And this up and coming generation, most of them see that. I mean, we're just talking about like such a generational break between millennials and Gen Z here, and just that in particular. And if there's one thing that I could summarize everything, and this is a long story, long answer to answer a relatively short question, but get ready to run. Get ready to run. Get ready to take power and to make sure that we have seats at the table, so that time and time again, when the Democrats have the opportunity to platform a Palestinian like Roa, they're going to actually listen, and they're going to actually make sure that our voice is part of the tent. Because if we're trying to say that we are the big tent, we need to make sure that they understand that we are part of the tent, because they're always asking us for our money and our votes. And if they want our money and our votes, they need to make sure that we need to also be listened to.
So I want to transition over to the topic of Palestine. Obviously, that's my favorite topic, if you couldn't tell. So I think,
As it should.
yeah,
As it should,
no,
brother.
thank you. As a human, genocide is wrong. Preston, as a human, knows genocide is wrong. As a Muslim, it's wrong. As a Persian, as half Polish, your wife is Palestinian American as well. It's wrong. I bring all of that up because I want to talk about your mother a little bit. And before we went on air, we spoke about your mother and some of the things that she contributed to. Could you walk through that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of like, where does people always like to say, oh, oh, he's involved here. Oh, the spinsters over in Spin City here who are real interested in trying to say, oh, people who are standing up for morality, standing up for Palestine here are insert whatever other buzzword you want to use, terrorist, anti-patriot, anti-Semitic, whatever. buzzword you want to use here. That couldn't be farther from the truth. My maternal family, my grandmother was in Auschwitz. She was. My entire maternal family was. She helped smuggle Jewish kids out of Auschwitz. She actively fought with the resistance until the Soviets liberated the camp. And where she ended up here in Western Pennsylvania, because the Catholic Church sponsored them. I mean, we're talking about people who have directly seen the results of genocide, and I'm a product of violence. My dad came here right before the revolution and wasn't able to go back because of the revolution. Being a product of violence, I understand what's currently at hand here, and especially as somebody who has worked at the Pentagon and acquisition and sustainment and got to see where does the 1.7 trillion dollars get appropriated out to. We see where it is. We see what's going on. We know authentically that there are people who are willing to fund genocide because it makes them a lot of money. And that's really what it boils down to, is there's people who are willing to say that people's lives are not worth the amount of money that they're making. And that is one of the most big, I mean, that aside from the current, absolute calamity that we're dealing with here in Western Pennsylvania, is one of the other biggest reasons as to why I wanted to run. Because we need more people who don't see whatever check they're going to get from Raytheon or Booz as going to be worth it when it comes down to voting for genocide.
So I read somewhere, some political expert, I guess I'll call them, basically said people don't vote for the based on foreign politics, only on domestic policy. Would you agree with that?
I disagree with that entirely, and I think you don't even have to look farther than Vietnam or just about any other major conflict that we have seen across overseas that has a huge major repercussions in terms of how it affects domestic politics. I mean, whether it be Iraq, whether it be Afghanistan, whether it be right now what we're seeing here in Gaza, I mean, there are a number of voters, and I mean, if the political expert doesn't believe that, I want him to go take a look at the results in Michigan here coming November. Because I mean, push comes to shove, the Muslims are the ones who are the swing vote and the deciding vote in Michigan. And if they want to play for Michigan, then they need to understand that foreign policy does have an impact on elections. And I think it would be short-sighted to say that it doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to ask you a question I asked Jill Stein. I know it's a little bit different, but I asked her what she would do her first 30 days in office as it pertains to Palestine. I'm going to ask you that same question. Of course, I know you have to tweak the answer a little bit. What would you say to that?
First thing I would do is go to the appropriations members right now in the House and have a real honest conversation about electoral politics here in Western Pennsylvania, because they know they need Western Pennsylvania. They understand what's going on here in terms of the electoral situation, and just let them know that, hey, we want to have a conversation. We want to be a partner, but understand that we also are bringing something to the table in terms of leverage, right? Two, try to create a coalition. There's a number of folks here who have stood up against the genocide and stood up for a ceasefire. Some of them are on conditioned ceasefires. Others like half steps and half measures. Right. Try to figure out, where does the through line happen. Got a chance to speak with Brother Andre Carson. He's been a congressman for a number of years and has seen it happen through a number of different administrations. Got a chance to speak with Brother Keith Ellison, the first Muslim to ever be in Congress, right? And just show, where does the lines happen? Where is the movement occurring? And I just got to see an interview here with Andy Levin, with him and Mehdi Hasan. They were talking about, like, in 2022, you were targeted by AIPAC here, and I mean, they outrooted you, and here you are. Are the Democrats moving on AIPAC? And he said something that was really enlightening to me. I mean, he showed that Democrats now have to make a decision on whether or not they are willing to openly take money that has been directly connected to a genocide that is being funded, right? That is a major, major stepping stone here. I mean, I was just talking with people across this entire country. Hani Adnan, the guy at UNRWA, director of philanthropy, a number of people who have literally lost hundreds of members of their family, saying, we have never seen the political groundswell like we have today for Palestine. All right. And I think that's probably the best movement that is completely and utterly due to the Palestinian community, to the organizers who are activists for it. And I mean, honestly, I think the change at the top of the ticket can probably be directly attributed to the uncommitted movement. It was the first people to call and say, you know what, let's have somebody else different at the top of the ticket. And we're seeing the movement and the opportunity that we have right now here in the first 30 days in office to tell them, hey, you are heard. You've been able to help elect somebody who authentically stands for your values, and also making sure that, we build more power. I mean, my first 30 days is to figure out who's going to be able to sit on our end table, try to then build power from there, and then create our coalition to make sure that we have more seats at the table. Because Rashida can't do it alone, Elhan can't do it alone, Brother Andre Carson can't do it alone. And we see where their targets are. They're spending $25 million to unseat anybody who stands against them. But we're making it so expensive to run against morality. And that right there is what destroyed the British Empire in the first place. It was too expensive. And right now, we're making sure that the military industrial complex, APAC in particular, DMFI, and their other entities, understand that it's too expensive to run against morality. Their days of determining how things are going to happen are long since over, because we have the momentum. We have the opportunity right now that in the first 30 days of me being in office, sadly, as a House of Representatives member, I'll make sure I get earmarks back home. I'll make sure that we vote properly, and I'll make sure we build the power. But, in the case of Jill Stein, she's able to call for an arms embargo like that, right? She's able to make it really, really happen. But what I think is really important is that we've seen what the power of Rashida is able to do. The only Palestinian member in Congress right now, raising millions upon millions of dollars and showing that she, regardless of who attacks her, is authentically standing against the genocide. And being able to elect a member like that in me, being able to show all the people around the world that it is possible. And I think the most important thing is that whether it's in the first 30 days of me, it's not the first 30 days of what I'll do, but the first 30 days of the people who are going to be watching. Because in those first 30 days, we're going to see the 14, 15, 16-year-olds all across this country, Arabs, Muslims, Palestinians, etc., say, he's Muslim. He has a Palestinian wife. He stood against genocide in a red district, by the way. We're not in a blue district. We're in a red district, right? And won. That's going to give people hope. And that hope is what's going to create the continued groundswell that we see. We're going to see it continue along in an authentic way to where we're going to see real results finally happen, and not just the half steps and half measures and all of these things, and then be ultimately let down just like we were at the DNC. We're going to show that in the first 30 days that our movement here is well organized, well funded, well backed, well supported, and honestly just inevitably boils down to we are standing in morality. We don't want kids to die. How can people stand against that?
Yeah. Practically speaking, though, I mean, we know APAC is powerful. In your position, when you win, let's say when you win, inshallah, right? What can you really do to affect change there?
Democrats, regardless of APAC, might have millions upon millions of dollars, but they still have to play the electoral game. We control probably inshallah, when we win, we will have the ability to influence the most important area in the most important swing state in the country. People who 100% believe in our movement, authentically believe in humanity, believe in morality, are going to have a seat at the table. And that is far more powerful than any money that APAC can spend. Because they can spend $35 million here in this district. They can, right? They could try to go put somebody in here who's going to affect them in a real way. But practically, when you have an incumbent member who believes in pro-humanity policies, the Democrats are going to take us a lot more seriously to make real results actually happen. Whether it's in the Senate, whether I need one of the let's say I need Bob Casey to go put out a what is it notice of disapproval or something like that to make sure that we can at least put the arms up for a vote here instead of just automatically sending them out or something like that. In an area that people, regardless of how they feel politically, electorally, understand how important this area is, we're going to get some real results. So practically, it gives us a bigger seat at the table, where historically we've seen what happens. And we can't just let that be the reality moving forward.
Yeah. So I have to ask you a question I ask almost everybody, and the results have been mixed on the response here. So assuming again, inshallah, when you win, one of the first questions you may get is one state versus two states for Palestine and Israel. What would your response be to that?
I mean, I think that the more or less the biggest problem that has been existing in American politics is we always have a conversation ourselves about, oh, is it one state or two state, instead of actually asking the Palestinians who are living there. You know what I mean? I think that's first and foremost the thing we need to focus on here. I mean, I know people in Chicago who are the most vehement pro-Palestinian people who are on one side, and other people who are on the other. Other people are saying it's untenable. I mean, right now, what we're seeing here is, regardless of one or two state, we need to end apartheid. Let's just start there, right? I mean, we're seeing where people are trying to utilize the argument, oh, Hamas, Hamas. Hamas isn't in the West Bank. And we're seeing like untold levels of annexation that have consistently been throughout the 10 months that we've seen, whether it be in the genocide or whether it be just what we're seeing just in the West Bank. I think I read an article the other day. I think it's been the biggest land grab that has ever been in like the last 25 years or something, has been in this last 10 months, right? We need to understand that regardless of whatever we decide to go put the shiny bow on it, we need to deal with the real realities on the ground, and also ask the people who are living there, where are we going to actually be with it, right? I mean, I could tell you one way or the other here, but what it comes down to is, why don't we actually ask the people who are trying to have self-determination for it? Let them self-determine, not have the United States determine for them.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make you a little bit uncomfortable here. So
Ready?
again, you're gonna win. Congratulations, you've won. In 10 years, you've been doing this. Any chance of you running for president down the road? I,
I'll be honest
I
with you,
may get
brother.
in trouble with the campaign manager for that question, so I apologize ahead of time.
No, I don't think Phil's gonna yell too much here, but I want to see where the party is in 10 years before I would ever decide to say, hey, I'm going to put my name as the front name here for this organization, because I have hope for the Democrats. I have hope for the Democratic Party. I am not ready, and I would not be ready to put my name up for president on the Democratic ballot, because I still believe that even though we try to aspire to the Big Tent Party, we're not the Big Tent Party yet. And until we have everybody who is at least in this decision maker, who's in that small council, who's going to decide who's in the party here, we need to make sure that they're willing to have everybody in the Big Tent. Because if we want to be the Big Tent and have a diverse member be the top of our ticket, we need to understand that everybody should be welcome in our tent and not just exclusive members. And sadly, what I think of the DNC really just showed that we're not ready to be the biggest tent that we possibly can be yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume when you do debate Mike Kelly, I think it is, right? When you do
Yep, yep,
debate him, one of the things that's probably going to come up is your age,
yep.
and I'm sure you have a good response for that already.
Uh, I mean, I'm not really sure if we should even be talking about age in the first place. I mean, he's 76 years old. He's been there for the last 14 years. I think 2/3, if not 3/4 of Congress is over 65 right now. I mean, the median age, I think, in the Senate is like 68 or 69 or something like that. Median age in the House is, I think, going into the 50s here. I mean, we're talking about, and I mean, people, regardless of party, are saying we need younger folks in Congress, people who are actually going to be around for the decisions that they're making in Congress. They're going to actually live it. You know what I mean? And we've been able to see where some people have always said, "Oh, your age is you're too young to do this," right? Well, I mean, the guy I'm running against, he's a used car dealer. I have more government experience at the age of 25 than he does, and he's an elected member of Congress, right? I think that the most important thing to really highlight is, it's not about age, it's just about, is the moment right? And right now, my area desperately, and I mean desperately, needs somebody who's going to be thinking about the future, because there is no future here in this area unless we make one. I mean, when you're dealing with the poorest zip code in the entire United States being in the heart of Erie, Pennsylvania. Not the middle of, impoverished, gentrified areas, but in the middle of a city that has historically, that is the only port on the St. Lawrence Seaway, has historically been a huge manufacturing hub and has created, well, I mean, this whole all up and down Western Pennsylvania is where steel was made. This is what made every single building that people all around the nation see, is Western Pennsylvania built it. And now we got left behind. And this guy who's been doing it here for the last 14 years has got no interest in representing us. And inshallah, when we do get there, that's what we're going to do. We're going to make it really happen for some people who've never had it happen for them.
Yeah. So what does the next few months look like for you as far as campaigning, and what are your plans overall?
So I mean, the next few months of campaigning it's busy. I mean, it's 85 hours a week. It is going out and I mean, alhamdulillah, being able to get to do events like this and being able to talk with you and a number of other people and just try to spread the message, spread the word, and do the work that we can. Those are the major highlights. But a lot of it's going to be knocking on doors. It's going to be making fundraising phone calls, organizing, going around the country here to engage with stakeholders that we need in the authentic way that we can. Uh, I think that probably a lot of it is going to be, I mean, a lot of talking to people. And that's honestly, word of mouth is the best way that campaigns spread. I mean, we're every weekend we're getting out there hitting about 1,200 doors if we can a day. We're going to make sure we continue to hit our targets, continue to get out there, continue to let the community know we're here. But it's going to be crazy. I mean, I genuinely don't really know what every day is going to look like, but it is going to be 7 till 10 p.m. every single day.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And then, look, I have a lot of respect for you. I mean, a lot of 25-year-olds in your situation couldn't wait to get out of Erie, Pennsylvania, if we're being honest, because of the lack of opportunity, right? The lack of jobs. Usually they want to go to the bigger cities or where more opportunity is located. What's really making you stick around? I mean, I think the audience has to hear this. So your passion, again, I said this at the top of the interview, is unmatched.
Yeah, I mean, let me put it to you like this. And I think it comes down to this simple thing. I have had to leave the place that I've always called home because of opportunities. Not because I wanted to, not because of anything, because I had to. I physically would not have the jobs, the opportunities, the experiences, and everything that I was able to accomplish without leaving Erie, which is sad because not everyone can. A perfect example is one of the reasons as to why I started running as early as I did is because I've got a friend of mine. He works 65 hours a week. He has a 4-year-old that he takes care of. He takes care of his mom. She's got some health challenges that make her unable to leave Erie because she cannot move. She physically can't travel. And he has to stay there to take care of her. He can't leave. He doesn't have a choice to leave. And right now, we're making people choose between the futures that they deserve and the only place they've ever called home. And that right there, and I said this earlier here, where 86% of this district has always lived in this area, we're making people choose between that. We're making people choose between family and home, between the money that they need to actually put dollars in their pockets. And sometimes they don't even have that choice. I can't let the people that I love and care about, Ed, live in this area with substandard opportunities, substandard education, substandard healthcare, especially since rural healthcare is completely being eliminated here through corporate mergers and conglomerates just buying up the block. Can't let that be the reality for people that I know can't leave because it's not their choice. And JD Vance loves to have his hillbilly elegy, book say, "Oh, it's their fault. It's their fault they can't do it." It's not my cousin's fault that he's spending 50 of the 75 hours that he's working taking care of his other siblings because they've been absolutely ruined by the addiction crisis here. We're up to 21 overdoses a day in Erie County alone. I mean, we're showing a future where unless there's going to be real results and real changes and real economic outcomes that are going to be resolved, that this area doesn't happen. And it's not necessarily just about my passion or about what I want to be able to bring to it. It's A lot of the stars have aligned to have me sit in the place that I'm sitting right now here on this podcast with you, being able to talk about the struggles that people here in Western Pennsylvania are facing, when I know most of the people here aren't able to complain or talk about it because they're too busy working. We have people working every single day who will not be able to upcycle or upskill in any real way because they just cannot miss a paycheck. And that's why I do it, Ed. That's why I do it. Because if we don't change, if we don't have a future, and if we don't forge a better future, there will not be a future. And it's just like any other family member would do, you know? We know that whether it's our mom or our dad or one of our brothers or siblings or our cousin, they'll look out for you and try to do the best thing that they can, trying to do that for the people here. Because I mean, whether you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my mother, you're my cousin, or whether you're a complete stranger, you're somebody's mother, brother, sister, or cousin. And I know that as an elected member of Congress, my top priority is to make sure that money's coming back home and that opportunities are actually able to give real jobs to real people so that folks can actually get the future that they deserve.
Yeah, no, excellent. So just one or two more questions here really is, how do we support you? And what are your final words that you like the audience to hear?
Biggest thing is, so I mean, if you guys can go to the website preston4pa.com, FOR or the number 4. We bought both of them. Don't worry, you'll get to the same place here. Um, so I mean, right now, especially when you have the poorest zip code in the entire United States here, and you're running against the 21st richest member of Congress, to make it happen, especially with APAC getting involved here, is we need your help. We need your help fiscally. $5, $10, $25. I really hate asking for money. Let me tell you, as a Persian man, it is just eating my pride away, let me tell you. But when you're running against somebody like this, it's not for me. It's not for trying to go pad my pocket with some dollars or anything like that. It's so that I can hire more people to knock more doors, so that more people can hear about the message, so that they can hear about morality, so that they can hear about, don't believe what you're hearing on Fox News saying that everybody in Palestine is, the worst, or they're terrorists, or whatever buzzword that Spin City is trying to demonize us with in the day. We can actually have real conversations with people and say, hey, I work for Preston. He cares about the issues. He cares about you, cares about your kids. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, he's going to make sure he represents you in the same way. And he's going to stand here in morality so that we're not having a question as to whether or not he actually is here to represent us, because he's not taking money from any of the bad guys. So to go make sure that we don't have to take money from the bad guys, we need your help, y'all. We need your help. Go to preston4pa.com. There'll be a big old red donate button there. I would appreciate your support. And to leave on some final words here, to everybody out here who's listening, whether you think you can run for office or not, I'm going to tell you something. There are people who at the very beginning of this race said that I have no chance in hell at actually winning this. That person who said that gave me $6,600 yesterday because he believes in us. There are going to be a number of people who, on your pathway to wherever you inevitably want to end up, are going to doubt you, are going to say you can't do it, whether it's your age, whether it's your experience, whether it's and some people are even pettier than that, whether it's your religion, whether it's your race, whether it's your gender, whatever have you. Don't ever let anyone determine what your potential is. The only ones who determine your potential are you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. God and you are going to be the folks who determine what you impact here in this world. If you're 15, 14, younger listening to this, know that the work that you're going to do here in the future is going to change the world. We have a blessing here in this country to be able to sit center stage for the entire world to see. We can either all burn in the melting pot, or we can become the American mosaic that is so beautiful with so many diverse colors, shapes, and features that we can truly live up to the values that some people had idealized. We don't have to go sit in the power for the few and nothing for the many, but we can have power for the many and making sure that the few understand that the many are where the power comes from. The work that we do, the effort that we put in, the amount of time and energy that we commit to one another and making this world a better place, that's the legacy we leave behind. We'll maybe only live on this earth, maybe what, 100 years, if that, if we're lucky. And in that 100 years, we'll have an opportunity to touch thousands upon thousands of lives. And those lives will live on that hundreds and hundreds of years between them. So instead of living 100 selfish years, live 10,000 selfless years and make a real difference here in your community.
Thank you, Preston. And don't forget to let me know when you do the debate, because I will come out there and support you. All right.
And you get a personal invitation here as soon as we get it. So thanks so much for having me on. I mean, this has been fantastic.
I appreciate it. Have a great one.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud. All about humanity, so this right here for everyone. Uplift, amplify, empower everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud. Listen, stay tuned, cause it's time for Sumud.